Chapter 141. I am not the one you want to fuck with. With the hype and bombardment of good advertised *ints, everyone could feel the heat of the match, and their hearts were full of excitement. While the majority thought that Riser would lose, it didn't matter, as there was no doubt this match would be exciting. The match between the Dragon and the Phoenix. They wanted to see the might of the Phoenix as Riser faced Tannen. Nevertheless, if Riser could only reverse the situation and become the winner of this rating game, there was no doubt everyone would be happy. After all, having a strong devil was a good thing, especially when the fallen angel had collected many sacred gears users for a dubious purpose. While heaven might seem to be in silence, this silence also made them worried. Moreover, the fallen angel and the angel weren't their only enemies, as some gods of other pantheons also showed their hostility toward them. Amid all of that problem, if their race could produce a strong man, then it would boost their race's power. Nevertheless, for high-ranking people, if Riser could really win this game, then the birth of a new strong faction in the underworld would be inevitable. The fourth faction that was different from the Mal faction, the Great King faction, or the Old Satan faction, remained hidden. However, there was no doubt this faction was great as it had openly argued with Surzek, and it was also due to this that Zekrom Bale appeared to see whether this young man was worthy of his attention or not. Still, for the stupid, like Issei, his eyes already moved right, left, up, and down, watching all the boo***s that attracted him while cursing Riser, who was so popular with women. Issei-san, please stop, okay? Asia helplessly looked at Issei, but there was an obvious sternness in her eyes. Asia-chan. Issei felt betrayed as he didn't expect Asia to help Riser talk. But then, it didn't matter as he snorted, thinking that this day would be the end of Riser. Riser's opponent was Tannen, one of the 5 Dragon Kings. There was no way Riser could win against such a being, especially when he had talked about this matter with Drake, the legendary Welsh dragon that was sealed inside his boosted gear. In this rating game, Riser's loss was inevitable. Because of that, Issei's mood was better, but he didn't realize that Asia, who had been staying by his side, let out a helpless sigh. If this continues. Riser might have forgiven Issei before, but if this continued, what would happen? Asia became anxious as they thought about Issei's future. Meanwhile, the others didn't pay much attention to Issei as the rating game between Riser and Tannen was about to start. As the heat started to spread into the audience, a flashy man who was wearing a microphone on his ears appeared on the monitor. Hello, everyone. The broadcaster for this match will be me, Nod Gamagen, from the House of Gamagen of the former 72 Pillars, who will be broadcasting to you. Along with the voices of Nod, everyone became even more excited. The arbiter for this game will be Bediza Baden. A magic circle appeared in the air. A blonde-haired gentleman wearing a stereotypical nobleman's attire appeared to be around 30 years old and emerged from the magic circle. Along with his appearance, the scream of the audience became even more maniac. What's happening? Issei was confused. Yet, Rias, Surzek, and the others felt dumbfounded as this game was so luxurious, considering how the third rank of the rating game was invited as the arbiter. Surzek stared at Zekrom, who still maintained his calm smile, causing him to be helpless. Yet, this wasn't the end. And our special guest. We have the second rank of the rating game, and the head of the Belpegor House, Roygun Belphegor-sama, as commentators today. Hello there, Belphegor-sama. Hello, everyone. A beautiful young woman in her 20s with long, wavy, cherry blossom hair and 2 horns protruding from her head waved her hand toward everyone, causing the stadium to shake due to the screams. Whether it was Bediz or Roygun, the appearance of the two alone was enough to make the audience filled with maniacal screams. While their popularity might not be as immense as Dihauser Belial, the champion, there was no doubt when the two were combined, their might wasn't even lost to Dihauser. What is this? What is this? Issei even became confused as he wondered why everyone became so excited. Yet, whether it was Sona or Rias, they weren't surprised. Only they couldn't help but sigh at the luxurious lining of the guests invited by Riser's match. Yet this was far from enough. And we have also called another person. Malaviathan. Serafal Levithan-sama. Everyone, are you all excited? Serafal-sama. Love, 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 Serafal-sama. Magical Leviathan-sama. The audience became even crazier as they waved pink flags with a picture of Serafal Leviathan. The children also shouted excitedly as they were fans of magical Leviathan. Kacho, this game is crazy. Saji was overwhelmed by the pressure emitted by everyone's enthusiasm. Don't be surprised. Everyone has been working hard to build the hype together. While Sona was also surprised, she quickly calmed herself. Nevertheless, everyone burnt this scene in their minds as they hoped they would receive this much heat when they had their rating game in the future. Now, as we have introduced our arbiter and 2 commentators, let's welcome our 2 fighters. From the East Gate, it's Tannen's team. Wah-ah-ea. Everyone screamed as they welcomed Tannen and his peerage members. Along with the screams of the audience, Tannen's peerage members entered with dragon roars. Meanwhile, Tannen was rather calm as he showed his presence as the king of the dragon. Even if Tannen didn't say anything, everyone felt awe and the pressure that came from one of the dragon kings. That's Tannen. Even Issei was in awe as he was Tannen for the first time. Watching carefully, partner. This is the Dragon King. Drake, who was inside the boosted gear, also spoke when he saw Tannen. Yes, Drake. Issei nodded several times and thought that there was no comparison between Tannen and Riser. He felt the winner of this rating game was as clear as the day. Drake also thought so. After all, as a dragon, Drake also believed in the might of Tannen instead of Riser, who used trickery all the time. Nevertheless, everyone who supported Riser became worried as the heat and the audience's support all leaned toward Tannen. If Riser entered first, then this problem wouldn't have happened. However, it was Tannen who entered first, so there was no doubt as a new player on the rating game, his support would be less. Moreover, while many had a good opinion of him, only the minority, a small number of devils thought that Riser could give a surprise, yet no one thought he would win. Yet, there was no doubt his bravery was worthy of admiration, especially when Riser dared to enter the last moment instead of the first one. Still, even so, Nod didn't show much of a change in his expression. Instead, he showed much more excitement when he welcomed Riser. And finally, from the West Gate, it's Riser Phenex's team. Hearing those words, Tannen and his peerage members scoffed and snickered as they felt happy about Riser's failure. They thought that Riser had made a mistake by letting them enter first, but suddenly, a sound was heard. What is this? I'm not sure. Wait, is this music? When they didn't know how to welcome Riser, as his name wasn't as famous as Tannen in the rating game, they suddenly heard a sound of music that echoed in the stadium. BGM, Scan and Crawley. No Glory, Feed Am I Me, and Drama B. The music was intense, and it made their hearts beat so fast, like they were about to see a beast about to walk out from purgatory. Then, at that moment, a change of beat was like an explosion, and in the dark purple sky, many fireworks exploded like a barrage of missiles, welcoming Riser and his peerage members, who entered like a king. When everyone was in a daze by his crazy entrance, Riser released his demonic power, which washed away all the awe and support everyone gave for Tannen. Show who is the king. Defeat Tannen and his peerage members. The rewards depend on how you win this match. Riser licked his lips and thought that tonight would become a wonderful night. Chapter 142. Who is going to win again? At that moment, everyone was in a daze for a moment before all of them screamed even louder than when they did with Tannen. Who? Riser and his peerage members also stepped forward without fear with the BGM that accompanied them. All of his women were staring at his back with obsession as Riser was the center of the world at this moment. Frankly, his appearance was rather gaudy with his favorite maroon suit, leather shoes, and black leather gloves, but amidst all of those formal clothes, a pink flamingo feather-like coat was draped over his shoulders. In the end, he chose to wear this coat as it would have much more impact on his appearance. As he entered, he also released a phoenix-like howl, causing tsunami-like cheers. Riser knew that he lacked popularity as he was just a new player in the rating game. He might have had 10 matches previously, but those matches were as good as nothing, as his opponents were nobody. However, Tannen was different. Tannen was one of the top 10 of the rating game. Even if Riser believed he could beat Tannen, the others might not believe so. Moreover, Riser also needed to make his peerage members have more confidence, so he arranged all of this, creating momentum for them, so it would build confidence within their hearts. While a tiger dressed as a pig might be interesting, it also depended on which culture it was. They were a devil, a myth from the Middle East, then spread to the West, so naturally, the first impression was important. It was like how someone would underestimate others when they dressed shabbily, yet one would be in awe when they saw someone dressed in a suit, dress, or something luxurious. No one might think that he would win, but due to this entrance, no one would forget him, and strangely enough, some of them started to believe that he might win. It was all due to his impressive entrance and fantastic song. Yes, a song. It might be the first time an entrance song was used on the rating game, since most people would usually enter after they were introduced by the presenter. Frankly, it was quite plain, so he added an entrance song for him, and the result was the best. At this moment, the expression of Tannen and his peerage members was so sour as they felt jealous of Riser's entrance. At the same time, their expressions are also quite complex, as some of them were trembling when they were hit by his demonic power. No, the dragon is the most powerful race. With those beliefs, and as their king also released his pressure, they regained their confidence. Yet, all the cheers were taken from them. Riser, Sariorg, who was Riser's best friend, shouted with all of his might excitedly. He might not have participated in this match, but he felt his blood was boiling, especially with Riser's expression. Zekrom Bale, Lord Beal, and the others who were related to Bale House were also in awe and felt their bodies were filled with adrenaline. Ha ha ha, this young man is interesting. Zekrom felt that it was worth it to come just to watch this show alone. Nevertheless, Sona, Rias, Aquino, Zenobia, and all the girls couldn't look away. I want to be there, Zenobia thought. Still, Surzek suddenly coughed as he glanced at Rias. Rias quickly fixed her expression and returned to her previous calm expression, yet she kept stealing a glance from time to time. Surzek could only sigh, wondering what he should do in this current situation. Only Issei's expression became complex and filled with jealousy. You don't need to worry, partner. Tannen is strong. Yes, there is no way that this guy can win. With those beliefs, Issei snorted as he hoped this match would start as soon as possible so he could see Riser fail soon. Wow, this is such an awesome entrance. It was my first time seeing such an entrance during my long years of career. I can see Riser Phenex's momentum has washed away the momentum built by Tannen-sama and his peerage members. Nod was even more excited as it was his first time seeing such an incredible entrance, but as a presenter, he didn't forget his job. Roigun-sama, Belphegor-sama, what do you think of this match? Riser-chan will win. Riser-chan forever. Serafal was so excited as she waved her hand like a maniac. What do you think of this match, Roigun-sama? Unlike Serafal, who was Riser's brother-in-law, Roigun should be able to make a neutral comment. Wow, even from this place, I can feel the heat of his momentum. Roigun was also surprised by Riser's entrance, as it was the first time someone had made such an overwhelming entrance. Nevertheless, she was still clear-headed as she made a comment about this match. Nevertheless, Tannen isn't an easy opponent. The only reason why he wasn't in the top 5 position was because there are many types of rating games, and those rating games brought him a lot of disadvantages. However, such disadvantages are nowhere to be seen, especially in this lightning-fast game, where the game will be decided soon. There is no doubt that Tannen and his peerage members will have a significant advantage in this match. Those words cleared everyone's mind, but Roigun hadn't finished her words. However, there is no doubt that Riser Phenex isn't weak. He had defeated many strong opponents, such as Kokobeel, the White Dragon Emperor, and even the governor of the Fallen Angel, Azazel. While many people still doubt his feats, I will tell you that there is no way such a thing exists. After all, if Riser Phenex really dares to create fake news, he will receive a significant loss to his reputation. If you still believe those rumors, then you might need to change your mind now since he is going to grow from now on. And as for those who try to sway people with lies, I advise that you better not show your face on the media from now on. In front of so many strong opponents, he dares to charge forward and keep fighting before winning. This time, it will be the same. We can see his spirit. Even if he is going to face Tannen, one of the Dragon Kings, he has no fear. As for the result of this match, we will see it soon. Hearing those words, Serafal nodded in satisfaction. However, Roigun sighed in relief since she felt Serafal's stares were too deadly for her. Once again, due to those words, everyone couldn't wait for this match to start. Yes, we will see the results soon. Now, not only the audience, but I can't wait for the match to start either. All the participants, please be prepared. Riser and Tannen, along with their peerage members, were then transferred to the game field for their battle. The game field was like a ruin in the underworld, as it was in the middle of the desert. The area was similar to the Kuo Academy, but there were no buildings or trees to hide, so the moment the match started, the two would meet each other, and the fight would start immediately. The time limit for the lightning fast is only for an hour. Before the match started, Nod explained the rules of the game. The victor is either the one who topples the other's king first, or the team who has managed to defeat the most amount of enemies in terms of pieces value if both king s remain undefeated by the end of the game. The game was simple, and there wasn't much of an explanation, So Nod quickly started the game. Start. On the monitor, everyone could see Tannen and his peerage members soar toward Riser and his peerage members. When all the dragons were flying at the same time, it brought so much impact to everyone's mind, giving them trepidation and awe as they could see the perfect formation that was shown by Tannen and his peerage members. It's your time to pay, brat. We are going to beat you hard. We won't give you mercy. All of them screamed angrily at Riser as they wished to beat him hard. I will defeat you. Bova, who was Tannen's third son, also charged forward, ready to beat Riser hard due to his hatred. Bova might have broken the formation, but Tannen didn't say anything since he also wished to beat the shit out of Riser, considering how much trouble Riser had done to him. Yet, if Riser was defeated by Bova, his son, then what was the point of getting angry, right? Instead, if Riser was defeated by Bova, it meant that was his limit. If Riser lost against Bova, then Tannen wouldn't think of him as his opponent. Yet, lost Hurricane. At that moment, 100 meters of tornadoes appeared, trapping all the dragons. Whether it was Tannen, Bova, or the other dragons were trapped inside this giant tornado. What? Riser Phenex suddenly released such a gigantic wind technique. Everyone was dumbfounded by the change on the game field. When they thought Tannen would have the advantage, Riser destroyed all of that advantage with a gigantic tornado. Frankly, while the Phenex house was famous for being born with wind manipulation, they hardly showed a wind manipulation ability as their fire manipulation was more potent and dangerous. So the might of the manipulation shown by Riser impacted and reversed all of their opinion about the Phenex house and him. Nevertheless, Riser's lost Hurricane wasn't as simple as just creating a giant tornado. While this technique trapped all the dragons inside, it also sucked them into the center and also became smaller and smaller. Moreover, he also added a mirage inside the tornado with his fire manipulation, causing the dragons to be at a loss as they crashed into each other and fought by themselves. If Tannen wasn't so calm and gave them an order to stop, then they might fight each other to death in the panic. Calm down. There is no way he can support such a powerful technique for a long time. Moreover, this tornado isn't harming us. As long as we wait for a while, this will be over. Hearing those words, all of Tannen's peerage members started to calm down. Even if they felt the wind got stronger, they still believed in their durability, and they didn't think they would be defeated by a mere wind. Yet, at this moment, all of Riser's peerage members have started to move. All of them suddenly chanted magic simultaneously and created a colossal magic circle below the tornado. Riser also supported them in combining the magic. Tannen and everyone suddenly felt a chill due to the surge of the demonic power, yet it was too late. The wind became even more intense, and they felt their bodies trembling for some reason, causing them to be unable to move. So, Tempest detonation. A highly condensed tornado filled with oxygen and sand suddenly combined with a giant explosion. Boom. Chapter 143, The Anger of Dragon. As the light swelled up, the booming sound of the explosion was heard. Yet, no one was prepared as they could only watch this disaster in a daze before they subconsciously closed their eyes and ears to protect themselves. The camera shook for a while, and the video on the screen created a Beezy's T. Beezy's T. sound for a while before it recovered. At this moment, no one talked as their hearts were filled with terror and shock. This was the case with Issei, Rias, and many others, especially since they had fought Riser before. When Riser and Rias were engaged to each other, they had a rating game. They might have lost, but they didn't think that they would lose against Riser as they had the power to defeat Riser's peerage members, and the power of those women in Riser's peerage was just SOSO. However, when they saw their might on the screen, they started to ask a question. Could they defeat them? Were they just lowering their level so they would match them? If they were hit by such a might, could they do something? The answer was obvious. Even if they didn't want to admit it, they knew if they faced Riser now, all that was left was only their dust. All the pawns of Tannen have retired. All the knights of Tannen have retired. All the bishops of Tannen have retired. The queen of Tannen has retired. One by one, the announcement was heard and caused everyone's heart to shake. Whether it was Issei or Drake, they were unable to say anything. One of the Dragon Kings, Tannen, was just defeated like that. There was no resistance. In front of such an overwhelming power, even a dragon would die. Meanwhile, Surzek was in a complicated mood before he glanced at Zekrom Bale, who sat close. While Sarorg, Lord Bale, and the other associates were in shock due to Riser's magic combination, he could see Zekrom Bale's expression was quite calm, yet the smile on his face was so noticeable. Nevertheless, whatever everyone's thought at this moment had nothing to do with Riser. Riser still calmly stood as he looked at his masterpiece. When the explosion happened, he created a barrier of fire to protect everyone so they wouldn't be affected by their combination of magic. The might of their combination magic was without a doubt, but as expected, if they weren't careful, they would be affected too. Moreover, their demonic power was emptied, so they couldn't do anything except let themselves be protected by him. Meanwhile, Ravel, Eubeluna, Enai, Lee, and all of his peerage members could only watch the might of their magic in a daze. While it wasn't their first time using this magic, it was their first time using all of their demonic power into this magic and combining it with Riser's wind ability. All of them might be exhausted, but there was no doubt their hearts were filled with excitement, thinking the victory was as good as theirs. Frankly, while many thoughts of him were spending his time on research, working as an architect or accountant, or working on his physical ability, he spent most of his time developing his wind manipulation ability. There were many notes and books about all the wind abilities developed by his ancestors and all the descendants, whether they were the main or branch families. Still, the development of the wind manipulation wasn't as good as the fire manipulation as it lacked power. If one wanted to develop wind manipulation better, one needed to have either talent, a lot of demonic power, or creativity. In other words, it was troublesome to develop wind manipulation ability. However, the fire manipulation was different from just a basic control. It was good enough, especially when the fire of the Phoenix was special. Nevertheless, he decided to train his wind manipulation as he knew the potential of the wind manipulation ability was limitless. Moreover, it was meaningless to train his fire manipulation ability as he had mastered it. Lastly, with his high intelligence, it was easy for him if he wished to train or develop his abilities, and it seemed his talent for this wind manipulation was quite good. Frankly, the Lost Hurricane might seem like a complicated technique, but in the end, it was just a giant tornado with a mirage from his fire manipulation. If there was something that was complicated, it was how to gather the oxygen into the center of the tornado. Due to the excessive oxygen inside the tornado, it slowed down the breathing and heart rate to dangerous levels. Even a dragon needed to breathe, after all, so this move affected them so much. Moreover, with their little brain, could they think of the countermeasure of this invisible attack? However, Riser felt that this wasn't enough. The sand and dust from the desert were also absorbed into the tornado, causing an even more chaotic environment inside the tornado. But what would happen when the sand, the dust, oxygen, and an explosion combined? It would create a bigger explosion. By this point, it wouldn't be weird if Tannen and his peerage members died. Yet, so what? If Tannen was a pure-blood devil in the direct line of a noble family in the underworld, then it would be different. However, even if he was a dragon king, he was just a reincarnated devil. No matter how much Tannen's status had risen, he was just a slave, after all. As expected, in that explosion, all the peerage members of Tannen were eliminated. But, bastard! Suddenly, something flew out of the dust. Tannen, whose body was riddled with various wounds, flew out in rage, and he blew a gigantic fire from his mouth. Even if the scale of this fire breathing was smaller than their explosions, for Riser's peerage members, whose side was as big as a normal human, it was already huge. Moreover, they were unable to move as their demonic power was emptied. Everyone's heart was tense as they thought about Tannen's counterattack. Issei was happy when he saw the reversal of the fight and cheered Tannen loudly. "Go, old man!" Yet, when they thought they were in crisis, Riser snapped his fingers, and all the fire suddenly disappeared. Everyone. Issei. However, Tannen surprised everyone again as he dove from a high altitude and smashed his body into Riser. When Riser erased his fire-breathing, Tannen, who was in a rage when he thought how all of his comrades and son were tortured by Riser's magic, didn't care about anything. He was going to make this young man pay for what he had done. Die, brat. Tannen might be surprised, but his obsession with beating the hell shit of Riser never changed. So, in that moment, Riser was blasted away directly, smashed by Tannen's body smash. Tannen's power as a dragon was already outrageous, and he was also a dragon king, so his physical ability was stronger than the majority of dragons. Moreover, due to his being reincarnated from the Queen Piece, his physical ability, speed, and durability increased even more. Lastly, adding the force of falling and gravity caused his body to smash enough to crush a mountain in smithereens. Onai-sama, Riser-sama, Ravel, Eubula, and the others were startled when Riser blasted away, and their hearts were gloomy, filled with anger, yet when they saw Tannen staring at them with rage and red eyes, their hearts were filled with terror. The sudden reversal changed everyone. Remember, partner, don't ever make a dragon angry. When they get angry, no one can stop them. The dragon is the symbol of terror. Gulp. Hearing Draig's words, Issei gulped and filled with fear as he saw Tannen's aggressive appearance, yet at the same time, his heart was filled with excitement. Nevertheless, every audience member also felt shocked and frightened as they had never seen Tannen be like this. Even many started to panic, thinking that they should stop Tannen right away, or else he might kill Riser and his peerage members. The wrath of the dragon. When it happened, no one could stop it. Yet, at the moment when Tannen was going to make Riser feel the feeling of loss he previously felt, suddenly, he felt a tremendous and powerful impact on his stomach. The black flash radiated on the battlefield before a booming sound echoed. Tannen, whose body was as huge as a hill, was smashed into the edge of the game field. Boom. Everyone was in a daze again as they saw a bloody figure standing in front of Ravel and everyone. Gulp. When they thought everything was over, his figure appeared once again, bringing hope when the light was shrouded by dark clouds, piercing it with an enormous single pillar of light, telling everyone this wasn't the end. Chapter 144. Demon. Watching his appearance, everyone in the underworld was in a daze before they roared. Ahoo! Riser! 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 Everyone chanted his name excitedly. Even at the bar where Valet and his group gathered, all of the audience fell into a maniacal state where they screamed Riser's name like their god. Tannen might be a great player on the raiding game, but in the end, he was a dragon and a reincarnated devil. While Tannen might have become a devil due to his reincarnation, Riser is a pure-blood devil. Due to that status, everyone cheered on Riser better. Moreover, even if they didn't have optimism about Riser's victory in the beginning, if he really won, then they would be more than happy. After all, wasn't it normal for people to support the weak? Watching Riser, who was working hard to defeat Tannen, the legendary Dragon King, at this moment, everyone supported Riser. Nevertheless, Valley was in a complicated mood as he watched all of this. The others were also in shock, but one of them seemed to be so excited for some reason. Oni-sama. Riser-sama. Everyone was flushed with excitement when they saw him appear. Nevertheless, they felt worried when they saw his bloody figure. Yet, for Lee, who had followed him to the human world, they felt this scene was similar. Go back. Let me handle this. But I know I am selfish, but this is my stage now. I want to beat the shit of this guy now. There was no way he was going to let go of this chance. When he fought Tannen, he could use this chance to get stronger by getting hurt, and at the same time, he could show everyone his might. Moreover, he could use this chance to make his women even crazier about him. So, how could he miss it? Nevertheless, after hearing his order, they hesitated. After all, how could they leave? Even if they had no power, there should be something that they should do, but WH. All of Riser's pawns have retired. All of Riser's bishops have retired. All of Riser's rooks have retired. All of Riser's knights have retired. Riser's queen has retired. Riser was too lazy to talk and forcefully made them leave by his authority as their king. Riser-sama. Riser-sama. Oni-sama. When they left so suddenly, Ravel and the others couldn't accept it and called his name several times, but it was meaningless as Riser had cut the communication with them. What's happening? Nod was startled by the sudden development. It seems Riser had used his authority as a king to make all of his peerage members leave. Roygun was somewhat unsure of her judgment. This isn't a surprise. Meanwhile, Seraphal was the calmest. Seraphal-sama. Nod and Roygun looked at Seraphal at the same time. This is the battle of the dragon and the phoenix. Their battle will be decided here. Moreover, this is a battle between men. There is no way he will let women interrupt this battle. After all, Seraphal knew how stubborn Riser was. When everyone wished for him to bow down and apologize, he would keep his head high and use his own way to pass through all of the obstacles. While she was helpless, she knew she might have gone crazy toward him. Those words settled everything. They knew what Riser wished to do by sending his peerage members away. With this development, everything was reset to 0 once again. No one could look away, and all of their focus was on this match. As for who would become the winner, everything would be determined soon. Then, as expected, Tannen, who was blown away, soared once again into the sky, looking at Riser at the distance condescendingly. Yet, inwardly he could feel his organs jumbled in pain, and the brushes and injuries on his stomach were so prominent that it was impossible to hide. There was no doubt among all the Dragon Kings that his durability was the best, yet he was still hurt by Riser's punch. Yet, how could he back down? Riser had angered him, and he was going to make him pay. Riser also stared at Tannen with a snort, clearly showing his disdain. The two stared for a moment before they charged forward with a speed that was impossible to follow with their eyes before they started their exchange. Using his horns, Tannen wanted to stab Riser to death, but Riser was even crazier as he directly smashed his fist into one of Tannen's horns. As expected, His fist was bleeding and stabbed, almost disabled, and the impact of Tannen's crash was enough to crack the entire bones on his body, but his body quickly healed, and he used his other hand to smash that horn many times until it cracked. Crack. When Tannen was startled, Riser used his bleeding hand to tear Tannen's cracked horn. Ergrai. Tannen's head was full of blood as his horn was torn apart forcefully. At that moment, Riser also didn't show mercy and kept smashing Tannen's enormous body with all of his might. Tannen was also brutal as he bit, punched, kicked, and smashed his tail at Riser, causing heavier injuries to Riser's body. Their fights were brutal, and no one stepped back in this brutal exchange. However, the more this exchange continued, the more shocked Tannen was. Riser might not have screamed, but he showed his dominance with each of his punches that carried a stronger impact than previously. Or rather, Riser grew stronger and stronger. His power, speed, durability, and everything became stronger with every exchange. Even Riser seemed to fall and defeated. He kept standing up and harder punches that were enough to shake Tannen's spirit. In the end, Tannen was unable to hold on and ran away by soaring in the sky. There is no way that I will lose. Even if he ran away from that exchange, he wouldn't admit his loss. Roar. The dragon's roar echoed through space, and once again, Tannen released a fire breathing. Yet, unlike the previous one, this one was much bigger and almost covered the entire game field. While he might be a reincarnated devil, he was still the Dragon King. If one asked how strong his power was, there was no doubt his power matched those of the four mouths. Yet, did Tannen think as long as his power matched those of four mouths, it was enough? When everyone fell in silence as they thought that Riser's life was over due to this fire breathing, a single figure suddenly emerged from the sea of flame, grasped Tannen's jaw, and smashed it with a fist. Crack. Tannen's jaw and all of his teeth were broken. Oh hell. Tannen thought that everything had ended with that fire breathing, but Riser came back once again. Yet, Riser didn't say anything. His eyes were like a beast, crazed and unable to hear anything. Riser kept smashing his fist crazily, beating down Tannen like a rack. Fall down. Fall down. Fall down. Tannen tried to use his every attack on Riser, yet Riser never backed down. The harder Tannen hit Riser, the harder Riser's revenge was. Tannen started to feel frightened by Riser, and he tried to run away, yet it was impossible to run away from Riser. With his remaining horn, Tannen tried to stab Riser to death, yet like before, Riser easily caught it with his arm, letting it stab his hand before pulling the horn, tearing it apart. Arbergat. Yet, this wasn't the end. Riser pummeled down his fists, bringing Tannen down to the ground, brutally beating him down with red eyes. The image was fiercely burned into Tannen's mind. Tannen could feel that his death was near. Stop. 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 Tannen tried to scream, begging for help, but with his broken jaws, the words that came out of his mouth were no longer clear. Moreover, Riser never gave him a chance to talk any longer as he kept hammering down Tannen's head. As he was beaten, while the others might not be clear, Tannen could see Riser smiling brightly. When everyone thought Riser's condition was hideous, Tannen knew that Riser became even more excited. At that moment, Tannen wanted no more than to run away. He wanted to use one of the mechanisms of the raiding game that could make him leave the game field, yet suddenly, his neck was grasped by Riser tightly, which made him unable to talk and breathe before it was suddenly pulled into the sky and burnt. The audience looked up as they saw Riser bring Tannen into the sky. Riser kept pulling Tannen to the top until he reached the limit of the game field. At that moment, Tannen, who was almost passed out, heard Riser's voice for the first time after that brutal exchange. Didn't you want to kill me? Then, I will kill you first. Tannen felt all of his goosebumps raised as he saw Riser's demon-like eyes that seemed like an abyss. The struggle he had was meaningless, and everything was too late, especially when he was suddenly pulled into the ground from a high altitude. Riser's figure shone brightly like a comet as he pulled Tannen to the ground. Cardinal domination. With outrageous speed, Riser slammed Tannen into the ground from a high altitude. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Chapter 145, Twisted. When the field was about to crumble and be destroyed, Riser was suddenly teleported to the stadium, but Tannen was nowhere to be seen. Or rather, when he was about to smash Tannen to the ground, that giant lizard had already disappeared. Riser then used his heat sight to look around, finding Tannen was at the infirmary. He frowned and ignored the cheers of the audience, ready to find Tannen, but suddenly, an enormous magic circle appeared, and an enormous dragon suddenly appeared. Riser frowned as he looked at this dragon. The appearance of this dragon was a pale blue western dragon with celestial blue scales. While this dragon might be a female dragon, and her appearance was quite beautiful, Riser didn't show much interest in it as it was simply just a dragon. What could he do with a dragon? Riser planned to ignore it and was ready to hunt down Tannen, but this dragon stopped him. I hate dragons, so step away since my patience is limited. The dragon fell in silence as he could see how his eyes were so dark, like a bottomless abyss. She could imagine how someone who had made him angry would be troubled and targeted by him, latched tightly until that person died. Even if he couldn't kill his target, then he would disgust and trouble them. If she really stopped him, then she would become his enemy. Was it worth it? While the dragon was known as a prideful being, it didn't mean they were stupid, especially when one could see clearly the aura emitted from his body. Riser's aura was extremely dangerous, and it was even scarier than the original Lucifer. Moreover, she could see that he would really attack her, killing her in front of everyone. So she decided to step away since she felt it wasn't worth it to become Riser's enemy due to Tannen. Riser also didn't say anything and was ready to kill Tannen, but another magic circle appeared, and a familiar figure appeared. With a bewitchingly beautiful and attractive appearance, a young man in his early 20s, with light blue eyes and green hair that was slicked back, appeared from the magic circle. Ajuka-sama. Riser-kun. Can I ask why are you here? Due to the mechanism of the field, when the field is going to be destroyed, or the player can't be teleported when a crisis happens, I and Tiamat, as administrators of the raiding game, will be summoned. Ajuka Beelzebub explained it Riser, then said with a smile. Nevertheless, congratulations on your victory. You are so strong that you can destroy the game field with your attack. Moreover, if we are too late to teleport Tannen, then Tannen might die. Riser looked at Ajuka blankly, who stopped his steps. Congratulations, Riser-chan. Seraphal suddenly shouted with all of her might, waking up everyone, who was still surprised by the sudden appearance of the dragon and Ajuka, before she jumped from the commentator area, hugging Riser tightly so he wouldn't do something stupid again. It's been a while, Seraphal. Ajuka greeted Seraphal with a smile. Hello, Ajuka-chan. Seraphal greeted Ajuka while rubbing her cheek against Riser. After all, she knew that even if he was wounded, he was as strong as ever. Get away from me. Riser looked at Seraphal in disgust. No. Still, Seraphal was hurt. How cruel. What's with that face? Being hugged by a beautiful girl like me, you should be happy. Riser. Oni-sama. Sona also came and pulled Seraphal away from her husband, but Seraphal kept hugging Riser, so she could only give up and support Riser while looking at him worriedly. Are you okay? Riser glanced at Sona, then stared at Ajuka, who still maintained his charming smile. Neither of them looked away, and they kept staring at each other. Husband. When Sona realized something was wrong, Riser's attitude suddenly changed. I'm okay. Let's go back. I'm exhausted. Riser showed a helpless expression as he pushed Seraphal away and leaned on his wife. Geez, Riser-chan. How cruel. Seraphal cried, but she didn't continue to hug him as she let him walk with Sona. Geez, it was because your way of fighting was too reckless. Sona sounded so helpless, but she still supported him with care. Don't blame me. Tannen is so powerful that I have to be serious, or else I might lose. Hearing those words, the dragon, Seraphal, and Ajuka stared at Riser speechlessly. Tannen loses. It is a Riser Phenex's victory. With that announcement, everyone screamed with all of their might, causing the stadium to shake once again. Nevertheless, Seraphal sighed in relief when she saw Riser had walked away. Geez, Ajuka-chan, don't provoke him. When Riser walked away with Sona, she pouted at Ajuka. Still, he is as prickly as Surzek had told me. If I don't stop him, then he might kill Tannen. Ajuka sounded so helpless. Well, if he wants to kill Tannen, then let him do it, right? Tannen is nothing but a pawn anyway. You don't like Tannen, Seraphal? I don't. Seraphal stuck out her tongue cutely. Tannen was going to kill Riser-chan before, so Tannen should be prepared to be killed by Riser-chan, right? If Riser wanted to kill Surzek, Seraphal would do her best to stop him, but if it was Tannen, she didn't care much. Anyway, even if Tannen was a Dragon King, he was nothing but a pawn after all. Well, that's true. Sorry for stopping him, then. Tell him that. I don't want to be troubled by him after all. Ajuka could see how troublesome it was being entangled by Riser, especially when he knew Surzek's experience. Yet, could one blame Riser? Surzek was also at fault as he didn't see Riser's potential. Now, everything was like this. Yet, could others also blame Surzek? After all, as the strongest of the devils in the underworld, who had ever thought someone dared to challenge him? The only way to recover from this situation was by letting Rias become Riser's bride, so at this moment, they hoped Rias could seduce Riser. I hope that his little sister can seduce him as soon as possible. Ajuka sighed since he also didn't want their friendship to be affected due to this problem. Seraphal wanted to say something, but in the end, she could only sigh helplessly. Ajuka, the matter here is finished, so I will return. Tell him that I am not involved in Tannen. Even if Tannen and Tiamat might be Dragon King, it didn't mean there was a friendship between them. Every dragon was selfish, after all. If there was a difference among them, it was whether the dragons had the power or not to back up their temper. With those words, Tiamat left without hesitation as she didn't want to get involved in this trouble. Ajuka didn't say anything and just let Tiamat leave. But then, he suddenly looked at Seraphal. Say, Seraphal. Ifu. As Seraphal stared at him curiously yet with an innocent expression, Ajuka stopped the words that came from his mouth. What's wrong? Nothing. Ajuka only hoped that everything wouldn't go according to his thoughts and wished this hard-gained peace would continue. Geez, you were so weird. Sarah Fall stuck out her tongue once again. Then, I will leave first. See you, Ajuka-chan. Then, she ran in the direction where Riser and Sona had walked away. Riser-chan. So-chan. Wait. As Sarah Fall walked away, Ajuka looked in the direction of Surzek, who also smiled and waved his hand at him. The reason why Ajuka became a Mao was all due to Surzek. If Surzek, his best friend, didn't become a Mao, then he wouldn't do it as he didn't have an interest in becoming one. Nevertheless, as Ajuka thought about Riser's eyes, he felt slightly unsettled, but he shook his head and waved his hand at everyone, letting their cheers bask on his figure. Still, with the defeat of Tannen and the victory of Riser, along with the appearance of 3 of the 4 Maos, everyone cheered excitedly, thinking that this rating game might be the best they had ever seen. However, from now on, there was no doubt the name of Riser Phenex was going to echo in the underworld. Chapter 146. There is no weak ability, okay? Riser pounded his wife like a beast from behind, even if Sona had passed out. Due to too much pleasure, Sona was unable to hold on and just passed out as she let her body be treated roughly by him. It was hard to change the habit. Riser knew that when he had woken up after he had released all of his stress on his wife. Watching his wife, whose proper and near appearance had become so lewd and dirty, he became excited once again as it had been a while for them to do it, but he held it as he knew his wife could no longer be able to satisfy him. She was dead tired. If he forced her to help him satisfy his desire, he might ruin her. Still, even if he had controlled his SE*N so as not to make his wife pregnant, he was afraid sooner or later she might get pregnant due to the number of S*X they had. Nevertheless, the matter of Sona getting pregnant or not aside, he decided to lie on the bed as he thought about the rewards he had received from defeating Tannen. Congratulations, you have received 3 random rewards. His reaction didn't mean that he was disappointed. Instead, he just wondered how to determine the type of rewards he got. There were 2 types of rewards he usually got, after all. One was when he got a clear reward, and the other was a random reward. Nevertheless, the system didn't answer him, so he didn't bother to ask anymore. Still, instead of his rewards, he thought about his meeting with Ajuka and Tiamat. Tiamat aside, as Riser didn't think of her as an opponent, Ajuka was on a different level. He was on the same level as Surzek, the mighty devil that was revered by many. Yet, even facing such a devil, Riser still dared to kill Ajuka. It genuinely surprised him when he really dared to do so. Frankly, Riser realized that his mind and personality had changed slightly. Nevertheless, his purpose had never changed as he only wished to have peace of mind. When anyone bothered him and created chaos for his ambition, then he was going to think of them as his enemies. Yet, when he thought about the women that he had laid, he felt that ambition was still far in the distance. With a helpless thought, he opened his rewards. The familiar lottery appeared once again, and he got his 3 rewards. Congratulations, you have received Breed Talent, Cavalier, and Kama no Mi Complete Version. He had to say each of the rewards he got was always unique. Frankly, no matter how strange his rewards were, he knew that they were useful. However, when he saw his first reward, he fell into silence. Breed Talent. While the name was extremely crude and downright rude, it gave him the ability to set up talents, abilities, races, and potentials that his children had when he made his women pregnant. In other words, there was no way his children would become disabled as he could control their talents with his ability. Still, the word race made him quite strange as he wondered whether the system predicted that he might make a non-devil race to be pregnant. Nevertheless, let's focus on his second reward. Cavalier. It was one of the famous weapons of a certain character in the game. While it might be a weapon, it was also a legendary motorbike. Still, as it was a weapon, this motorcycle could be transformed into twin giant buzzsaws. Was it powerful? Naturally. Nevertheless, his main weapons weren't buzzsaws, so he would use this weapon mainly for a vehicle, as the motorbike version of this weapon was cool. Still, he was sure that some of his peerage members would be excited due to this weapon. Moreover, he could research this motorbike to create another vehicle that could be transformed into a weapon. This was probably the real value of the Cavalier. A motorbike alone wasn't enough. However, his last reward was the one that surprised him the most. Devil Fruit. There was no doubt this was amazing, but unlike a normal devil fruit, his devil fruit was different. The complete version at the end of the name showed that it was different from the normal one. As for what was the difference between this version and the normal one, this version wouldn't give water as a weakness to the eater. The eater also could have more than one devil fruit, and lastly, it didn't have a limit of development. The word limit might be strange, but it was probably due to the certain limit when they needed to use the ability or when a certain devil fruit was naturally weaker than the others. If he gave an example, it was like a barrier fruit that needed a hand sign when it was used, or when snow fruit was weaker than frozen fruit. This complete version would break that limit, and as long as the eater trained harder, such a limitation wouldn't exist. Nevertheless, when he looked at the type of devil fruit he received, he fell into silence. Kama no Mi. While the name might be strange as it gave a pun of the transvestite in Japan, it definitely wouldn't give him the ability to transform into a transvestite. Instead, the meaning of this devil fruit was sickle fruit, or / fruit. By name alone, it would give him an ability that was related to either sickle or slash. Frankly, there was no weak or strong devil fruit, and as long as one had enough imagination, even the strangest and weak devil fruit could be turned into a powerful ability. Even if the real owner of this devil fruit was quite weird and weak, it was all due to the limitation of the original user. Yet, this wasn't so surprising as the world was famous for its limited brain, which wasn't much different from Issei's brain capacity. So, at that moment, he didn't hesitate and ate the fruit. After all, he could eat more than one, so even if he got another one in the future, he could still eat it. It was said that the taste of the devil fruit was like shit, but his devil fruit didn't taste bad at all, so he ate it with ease, and he found his newfound ability. He looked at his hands and saw that he could lengthen and sharpen his nails. He tried to touch his palm with his sharp nail, and his palm bled. How sharp! He was surprised by the sharpness, and moreover, the toughness of his nail seemed to be as tough as steel. Was it due to the name of this devil fruit being called sickle fruit, so his nails were as tough as a sickle? No, it should be more than that. He tried to concentrate, and a large sickle-like blade emerged from his forearm. The blade was sharp, and he could tell that it could easily cut his hotel room, so he quickly put it back. Still, it was too early to rest, so he tried to focus once again and created 2 sickles on his 2 hands. He looked at his sickles and thought they were scary weapons, but he wasn't familiar with them, so it was meaningless. Still, this devil fruit also gave him the ability to create a slicing air blade, so it could be combined with his wind manipulation ability. Yet, he knew this was still far from the potential of this ability. Tomorrow, let's try it. With those thoughts, he decided to sleep, but then, when he lay down, he saw that Sona's eyes trembled and woke up. Did I wake you up? She shook her head and moved closer, hugging him, but then, she asked, by the way, that Zenobia was the exorcist before, right? That's right. You made her into your peerage member? I want to, but you should know that my peerage members are full. Then, can I take her into my peerage member? Riser looked at Sona, who made such a wish, and thought that it seemed he didn't need to ask her. Let's ask her tomorrow. Okay. Sona closed her eyes, but then she noticed his erection. Sona thought that she needed someone to help her, or else she might die. Yet, she had to say she was addicted and loved him so much. Note: I chose a non-canon devil fruit. Let's say if this devil fruit awakens, what will it do? I have thought about how it will develop, but let's see your thoughts. Chapter 147, Broken. After his match ended, Riser didn't stay at the stadium but went to the hotel built by him with his family. His hotel was completed, but it still needed trial and error as it was necessary to train the employees on the matter of hospitality. Fortunately, everything was good. Lord Phenex, Lady Phenex, his brothers, Lord Citri, Lady Citri, and many others were satisfied with their stay at his hotel. Still, in the morning, when they had woken up and eaten breakfast, they waited for the protagonist, but it wasn't until late at noon that they saw his figure with his wife, along with Seraphal, who kept bothering him. Yet, they had to say this scene was quite bizarre, especially when Sona was supported by Riser. Frankly, wasn't it supposed to be the other way around? After all, the one who was hurt was Riser, but why was he the one who supported Sona? Are you okay, Sona? Lady Citri asked in concern. Meanwhile, Lord Citri kept staring at Riser in silence. I'm sorry for my son. Lord Phenex, who was by the side of Lord Citri, could only apologize. Lady Phenex was also helpless, but she also asked Sona in concern. Riser could only laugh dryly as he was watched by many. While it was good that the relationship between Riser and Sona became better and returned to how it was used previously, they were afraid that Sona's body might be wrecked by this beast. Still, they had to say among the devils that Riser's way of fighting was different. If the others were full of elegance, using magic and various tricks, Riser was brutal. While they had seen such a way of fighting when he previously fought Kokobel, Vala, and Azazel, it was just through a video, so the impact was less than when they watched his fight against Tannen, which happened in real time. Frankly, they wondered what changed him so much after all. He wasn't like this before. Previously, Riser might have been arrogant, but that arrogance was cute somehow compared to his current. Yet, there was no doubt he felt more reliable than before. I'm okay. You don't need to worry, Mother. Sona showed a gentle and loving smile. 2x. Lady Phenex and Lady Citri thought that they needed to talk to Riser, especially when they noticed a red mark on Sona's slender shoulders. How rough was their S***X? However, the good thing was that they might see their grandchildren soon, right? Still, the one who congratulated him wasn't only his family, but Serorg and Misla, who came in the morning as their villa was nearby, stayed at the hotel with everyone. Haha. Riser, your match is a beast. Serorg was so happy, like Riser's victory was his victory. Frankly, when Riser was on the stage before, Serorg also wanted to fight Riser, but he knew with his current self, his defeat was clear. I need to work harder, Serorg thought. Okay. You don't need to hug me. Still, Riser turned his focus to Misla, who was behind Serorg. Congratulations on your victory, Riser Cohen. Yes, thank you, Misla-san. When their eyes met, it was clear what they wanted to convey to each other. I am sorry for not being able to come and can only watch your match on television. Misla apologized, but then she asked in concern, how is your body? It's okay. I understand your situation, and as you can see, I am great now. With just one night of sleep, his body had recovered. Wait, did he ever sleep? All he remembered was that he was doing it with Sona after he returned to the hotel. That's great. Misla nodded with a smile. Even though Misla's sleeping disease could be alleviated with his feng shui, it didn't make her disease disappear, so it was impossible for her to leave the city. If she left, then her disease would hit her once again. While she wished to leave, he told her not to as he was afraid she might get sick once again, and due to that, he might make him worried and unable to focus on the match. If she lost his rating game due to her, could she forgive herself? So she followed his words and stayed in her villa, watching his fight. Yet, she had to say how much she wished to leap onto him and hug him tightly before they had dirty, violent **X. However, is it only me, or is your relationship with my son quite close? Yeah, how come you two seem to be close? Lady Phenex and Lady Citri asked. Misla was stunned, but then her face was calm, then said, isn't it normal? He is rather close with my son. Well, that's true. That's right. The two nodded as they felt that it was quite normal for Riser and Misla to become close due to Serorg. As for the thought Riser and Misla had a secret relationship, such a thought didn't cross their minds at all, especially when their age difference was massive. Moreover, Misla was the mother of Riser's best friend. Was Riser so abominable to touch his mother's friend? Lady Citri and Lady Phenex didn't think so. Watching their expressions, Misla sighed in relief, but then the words of Serorg made her and Riser almost dread. Oh, right. My ancestor wishes to see you, Serorg suddenly said. Ancestor? Do you mean Zekrem-Bale-sama? The one who asked this question was Lord Phenex and Lord Citri. While they might be the father of Riser and Sona, compared to Zekrem-Bale, they were still children. Yes. Serorg nodded. Before my ancestor left, he told me to tell Riser to meet him on our territories. Frankly, this sudden move by inviting the leader of the Great King faction, Zekrem-Bale, surprised them. They didn't think too much as it was natural for their house to maintain a good relationship with the Great King faction. They might be part of the four great Satans, but it didn't mean they were enemies with the Great King factions. So, Riser's wish to invite Zekrem-Bale, Lord Bale, and Serorg didn't make them question him. Nevertheless, it still surprised them when Zekrem-Bale suddenly came, as they thought someone with his status wouldn't come to Riser's match. Yet, this invitation was different. Riser was invited by Zekrem-Bale to his territory. Was he going to join the Great King faction? At this point, they wished for Serorg and Misla to leave so they could ask Riser. Nevertheless, Misla was nervous as she thought that the reason why Riser needed to leave for the Bale territory was due to their relationship. Geez, why are you so serious? I was just invited to visit Zekrem-Bale-sama's place. Riser only rolled his eyes, but then he said, well, it is probably due to my words last night. After all, I want to aim for the top. He then looked at Misla and tried to reassure her with his eyes. Hearing those words, while they felt skeptical, they thought that it might be one of the reasons. Nevertheless, Lord Phenex and Lord Citri didn't think that Riser's move was bad as Riser could also ally himself with the Great King faction, and Serafal could ally herself with the four great Satans. While many houses could only ally with one side, they could ally themselves with two sides without harm. Still, Riser's words also made them think about his words last night. When Riser was about to leave, he was stopped by the reporters and was asked what his ambition was. Naturally, they asked him politely, as they knew it was better not to mess around with him. I will aim for the top. Riser's words were short, and he didn't say much as he was hurt, but the reporters were so excited hearing those words as it meant he wasn't going to stop with Tannen. He would continue to fight until he reached the top. It meant his aim was to defeat the champion of the rating game, Dihauser Belial. If it was before, they might think of him as boasting, but after his fight with Tannen, they had to say otherwise. They thought that Riser might have a chance. Nevertheless, his words brought so much excitement to the reporters and his family since if Riser could only become the champion of the rating game, it would bring so many benefits to the two families. Many thought that they wished to see such a scene soon and couldn't wait for him to challenge the champion of the rating game, Belial Dihauser. Yet Serafal thought differently. While many thought that Riser might focus on his rating game, she knew his ambition wasn't going to stop at the rating game. Instead, the rating game was just his means to get his hands on what he wanted. There was no doubt that even if Riser might seem harmless and kind, he was still a fire. Even if it was warm by his side, if someone got too close, they would be burnt. Yet, Seraphal just couldn't stop it. She knew where his ambition led, and she could imagine what kind of misery he might cause, yet she wondered why she found a charm in such a broken man. Chapter 148. Unchained. Everyone had to say their stay at his hotel was great. If they didn't have a job, they would stay a long time, but they had many things they had to do, especially when their jobs had piled up, so in the end, they left. Nevertheless, the girls stayed. Lady Phenex and Lady Citri also stayed as they also wanted to continue to talk with Misla. It might be strange why they appeared so close, but previously, they were classmates, and it had been a while since they talked to each other, especially after Misla was sent to the countryside by her husband and slept due to her sleeping disease. It was also due to this that there were many things that they wanted to talk about. Hearing that, their husbands didn't say much and let them stay. However, the real reason was probably due to the fact that their skin and bodies got better due to the hot springs in this place. With such a benefit, how could they get back immediately? Moreover, how could Riser and the others monopolize this place by themselves? Even if they had already become a mother, they still wanted to appear beautiful, okay? Especially when they saw how Misla became so beautiful for some reason, which made them quite jealous. Still being asked why she became even more beautiful, Misla could only let out a dry laugh, wondering what their expressions were when the cause of everything was Riser. Nevertheless, not only Misla but Riser was also helpless. He didn't say anything, but he knew it was hard to visit Misla due to the appearance of his two mothers. Yet his two mothers weren't the only obstacles, as Seraphal also stayed. You are not going back? He wanted to train his new power, but it seemed it might be hard to do it. Riser-chan is so cruel. You want to shoo me away, right? Riser-chan no longer loves me. Seraphal cried. Riser decided to ignore Seraphal. Don't ignore me, Riser-chan. Riser wanted to say something, but he noticed Sona brought Zenovia away with her. He knew that Sona planned to invite Zenovia to her peerage members, and it was also the reason why his mother stayed. Is Sona-chan going to invite Zenova-chan into her peerage? Seraphal suddenly asked. She did. Last night, she told me. That's great. Having the user of Durandal as her peerage member will make her peerage member stronger. Is that okay? What do you mean? I mean, Durandal. Is it okay for us to keep it? This had always been a question on his mind as Durandal was owned by the church, so was it okay for them to keep it? Frankly, the fact that Zenovia could use Durandal even though she was a devil still surprised him. But then again, as God had died, many things that should be impossible to happen in the past could happen. Geez, you were so kind. Seraphal hugged him again, but Riser only rolled his eyes. Yes. So, can you answer me? It's okay, isn't it? After all, if the angel and the church want to retrieve Durandal, they will have to go to the underworld. Still, as God died, it is impossible for them to be so reckless again as they can't be like us, who can mate to increase our number or use evil pieces to create a reincarnated devil since they don't have such a technology. Seraphal smiled at him, then said, Frankly, we are the strongest faction among the third faction from the Bible, you know? Especially with you here. So, there is no need to worry about the matter of Durandal, but I have to say, it feels weird when a devil can wield it. As expected, it was impossible in the past, right? Riser asked. Of course. The devil will definitely get burnt the moment they try to touch it. Frankly, Riser also felt it weird when Zenovia could wield Durandal and Excalibur destruction even though she had become a devil. However, Zenovia wasn't the only one, as Kiba Yudo, Rias Knight, could also create a holy sword with his sacred gear. If a god didn't die, then how could such a thing happen? Or rather, would God allow a devil to create a reincarnated devil? Probably not, as it would allow the devil to have an advantage among the three factions. It was also the case with fallen angels who kept collecting the owners of the sacred gear, including the Longinus. Yet, while fallen angels and devils did their best to change, the angel maintained their status quo without doing anything. If in the future heaven fell, then he wouldn't be surprised. Still, Riser hadn't seen the angel and the heaven, so it was hard for him to make a judgment as he didn't know them. So should he visit them in the future? Say, Riser-chan. It's just an example, so you don't need to think about it seriously. But what do you think if three factions, angel, fallen angel, and the devil, make peace with each other? Even though you told me not to think about it seriously, why did you sound so serious? Riser was speechless. Anyway, what do you think? Seraphal asked as she stared at Riser. Well, why not? Why did you sound so surprised? Weren't you the one who initiated this question? No. I thought that you would say that you wouldn't accept such a thing and charge forward to Gregory headquarters, or even heaven by yourselves. What do you think I am? Riser was speechless. If someone won't trouble me, will I even be troubled to cause trouble? No. Think carefully, Aniki. Have all the troubles that I encountered been all caused by me? Seraphal opened her mouth, then closed them. It seems that was the case. All the troubles that happened to him, no matter how big or small, were caused by others. All he did was just fight back. Was it wrong for him to fight back? So, did the others expect that he would just accept their provocation and be beaten up? How could others be unreasonable? Sorry. Nevertheless, she wouldn't change her thoughts to stop him from fighting against Surzek. It's okay. You have your own considerations. Our in-laws' relationship is nothing compared to the long-lasting friendship you have with Surzek. He sounded so lonely when he said those words. No. I. Seraphal's character broke down for the first time. She was no longer the bubbly woman who appeared happy all the time as he said those words. Let's not mention this. You want to talk about the peace of the three factions, right? Seraphal didn't want this conversation to change so suddenly, yet what could she say? The fact was laid before them. During the Kuo Academy or the press conference, she told him that she would stop him no matter what. It was as if she explicitly told him that her relationship with Surzek was more important. Yet was that the truth? No way. While it was true that her relationship with Surzek was good, was it more important than her relationship with Riser? She was dizzy, and she didn't know how to answer him. Yet, Riser ignored her and continued to talk about her previous question. With the truth about God having fallen out of the box, there is no doubt the other myths are going to aim for us. No, it should be aimed at heaven as we, the devil, are strong even without God. Still, there might be some stupid gods who think they can fight us, so they will attack us. However, this is no longer a problem if three factions are allying with each other. Moreover, by doing this, there is no doubt that we can become the strongest faction once again, deterring all the animosity that is aimed at us. However, this isn't without a problem. The first is a fallen angel. That Azazel hasn't even given me compensation for what he and his subordinates were doing. Could you trust such a person? Seraphal fell in silence after Azazel promised to give Riser anything Riser wanted, but did Azazel uphold his promise? The fallen angel aside, the heaven is more serious. As a symbol of holiness and sacredness, it left an atrocity known as the Holy Sword Project to happen. Nevertheless, even if such a problem occurs, there shouldn't be any angels who have fallen. With the loss of God, I believe that the angels in heaven have modified the system of their races, so even if they did something wrong, they wouldn't fall. Probably, the heavens have done something more wretched without our knowledge. Riser then looked at Seraphal with ease and asked, with those problems, can we really achieve peace? Seraphal couldn't answer him. Could peace really be achieved with many problems occurring in reality? Onihai-sama, can you help me here? Ravel suddenly called. Wait a moment, Ravel. Riser didn't wait for Seraphal's answer and just left. Seraphal wished to stop him, but her hand stopped before it could reach him, and she was unable to stop him. After all, with what she did, was it worthy of her to stop him? Was the only way to stop him was to let Rias seduce him? While she was unwilling, Seraphal could only sigh, wondering what she should do as, from now on, she knew no one could stop him. Chapter 149. There is no need to hide anymore. So, you have decided to follow, Sona? Yes. Zenovia nodded at Riser's question. How did you make her follow you? Riser looked at his wife in surprise. He knew that Sona invited Zenovia to talk, but he was stopped by Seraphal, so he wasn't sure what kind of conversation they had. Well? Sona hesitated, but Zenovia said, Kaicho promised to let me become your lover and have your children. As Sona told her to call her Kaicho, Zenovia followed her wish, and she would be lying if she didn't feel excited when she was going to school. Moreover, she knew with Sona's permission, she could become Riser's lover without hiding. Even if they had children, there was no need to worry that Sona might ask her to have an abortion. As expected, being a devil was great. Zenovia thought at that moment. Everyone. Zenovia, next time, I will teach you about manners. Sona sighed helplessly. Yes, Kaicho. Zenovia nodded eagerly. Sona. Everyone. The fortunate thing was that all of them were insiders, and they were all either of his or her peerage members along with their mothers, so everything was okay. Still, his peerage members aside, who were happy due to Sona's confirmation that their relationship with Riser would be okay, Sona's peerage members were in shock when they heard those words. Especially Saji, who couldn't believe what he had heard. Moreover, wasn't it normal for a man to wish for a harem? After all, they knew how strict Sona was, so it surprised them when Sona had accepted Zenovia as Riser's lover openly. Yet, Saji wanted to say a word or two to Riser. After all, Riser was too lucky to have Sona, but Riser still had many other women. Moreover, Sona agreed with his relationship with others. However, as expected, he didn't dare to say anything. After all, he knew the consequences of saying something in this situation were definitely horrible, so he could only sigh helplessly. However, before Riser could say anything, Lady Citri asked with a frown, Sona, are you sure? She knew how bad a man was. If a woman didn't give the man a firm rein, Then they might become crooked and do as they pleased. Yes. Sona nodded with a sigh as she let her husband rub her back. I can't handle him alone. My back still hurts even now. Riser. Everyone. Moreover, I feel that I might get pregnant sooner or later, so I might not be able to help him in that area. Instead of letting him do it with a random woman, it is better to have someone who I can trust. Zenobia was quite stupid, so Sona was quite relieved. Are you sure? While Riser had cheated on Sona, he did it secretly, and he played clean. He would never show all the ugly things he had done to her as she was his wife, so he needed to show her respect. Frankly, Sona had agreed to his relationship with others, but unlike before, where he needed to do it discreetly, this time, she told him it was okay to do it openly, which surprised him. I owe you this much after all. When Sona thought about what she had done to him, she felt that she needed to give him this much. If not, she might not forgive herself. When he needed someone the most, she wasn't by his side and just followed the others instead of trusting him. With what she had done, she felt that she wasn't worthy of his wife, yet how could she give this place to anyone? She loved him so much, and it was impossible for her to give up her position as a wife. Anyway, they were just his lovers. As for the wife's position, it could only be hers. What are you saying? You are my wife. No one owes anything. Riser. Watching how close the two were, Lady Citri could only sigh, but she knew that this was inevitable. If Riser was just a regular, powerful devil, then there might be a way to solve his, but with how powerful he was, it was impossible for him to settle with a single woman. Sona's generosity was a good thing, especially when Lady Citri knew there would be many women who would seduce him. If Riser was like Belial Diehauser, who wasn't interested in a woman, then it might be different, but Riser wasn't the case. Moreover, unlike Belial, who was kind of poor for the champion, as a member of Phoenix House, Riser was wealthy. Lastly, he was good at business, as she had seen how his energy drink was in rage on the underworld. Burst energy drink. Even Lady Citri had to admit that Riser was a genius. If she wasn't married and still young, she might be tempted by Riser. Why didn't you say anything? Lady Citri suddenly realized that Seraphal hadn't said anything from the beginning to the end. She knew how noisy her eldest daughter was, so it surprised her when Seraphal was so silent. Hee. Really? Yeah. It feels weird. Lady Citri felt that Seraphal was kind of strange. Geez, Mom, how could you say that? Pun. Seraphal puffed her cheeks, showing how angry she was at her mother's accusation. Lady Citri was wrong. It seemed Seraphal was the same as ever. Nevertheless, with the matter of Zenobia being solved, Sona and her peerage members decided to return to the human world. While Sona wanted to stay for a long time, it was impossible for her to ignore her work as a student council based on her personality. You are not going to visit the human world again? Sona asked. Riser fell in silence. When Sona was about to leave for the human world by train, she suddenly asked him this question. Yet, would he really visit the human world? He hesitated, especially when his memory of the human world wasn't that good. Nevertheless, he knew that if he ran away, nothing would begin. Everything would become stagnant, and he would lose his spirit, so he could only charge forward. So, he knew even if he didn't really want to go to the human world, he had to visit it, especially when there were few things he needed to do. Moreover, he also had left so suddenly without saying anything to the girls that he had made a relationship with. Still, it felt strange if he did go there without a reason. You come to the underworld every weekend, right? There is no need for me to go to the human world. I see. Sona lowered her head, which made him sigh helplessly. Is there something special happening in the human world or your school? Riser recalled that Sona's school had just finished the ball event, so he wondered whether there was another event. Still, at the previous ball event, he didn't come to visit as they were in an argument, and he was also busy preparing for his raiding game with Tannen, so if there was an event, he wouldn't miss it. There is a class visit at my school. Class visit? Yes. Sona told him about the class observation event where the parents or family of the students came to visit the school to observe their family, who was a student at the Kuo Academy. Okay, I will visit. That's great. Sona smiled and kissed his lips. Riser readily accepted this kiss. Nevertheless, unlike before, there were no Rias, and nothing strange happened. It would take a while for the observation event to happen, so there was no need for him to visit the human world so early. Still, when he noticed Zenobia, who was looking at him, he suddenly said, I will go to the toilet first. Kaicho, I need to go to the toilet. Zenobia suddenly said but didn't go to the toilet. Instead, she went to chase after Riser. Sona ignored Zenobia and sat next to Ravel. Ravel, are you not interested in studying in the human world? No, I am not, Sona Onisama. Studying in the underworld is much better. Moreover, since Oni Isama has decided to take the top, I want to help him. Your relationship is great. Sona thought that the relationship between Ravel and Riser was as close as a sibling. Ravel only smiled and didn't say anything before she changed the topic of conversation to the human world, as she would be lying if she wasn't curious about what her older brother did in the human world. Still, as they talked, half an hour later, Zenobia and Riser returned. No one said anything about them, except Sona's peerage members were a little awkward when they left for the human world. Are you satisfied, Oni-sama? Ravel suddenly asked with a smile. Not yet, right? Then, let Ravel help you. Ravel held his hand and led him into the car. As for where they were going, was there even a need to question that? Once again, the SC asterisk bag Riser returned. Chapter 150. How did you come up with those names? Even though Riser was invited to the Bale territory to meet Zekrom Bale, it didn't mean that he had to come immediately, so instead of wasting his time waiting or preparing something, he decided to train his power and also gave a new weapon to his peerage members. What do you think, Carloman? Cirrus. Frankly, he had to say, researcher, the ability he received when he defeated Azazel was extremely useful. By combining the knowledge he gained from analyzing the magic spear, 10 Commandments, and engraving his magic into a weapon, he created a new type of weapon. It's great, Riser-sama. Carloman was so happy when she got her new sword. The durability and the sharpness of the sword were, without a doubt, but it also had two abilities. One ability was from the magic spear, 10 Commandments, which greatly enhanced her speed. The second ability was from his Kama no Mi, which made her able to produce slicing air blades. Me too. This sword is amazing, Riser-sama. Cirrus was also happy with her new sword. Unlike Carloman's sword, while the first ability of Cirrus' sword was similar to Carloman's, the second ability she got was from the area of invisibility, which made her able to create a flawless stealth camouflage that completely isolated a person's senses. It's good that you like it. Frankly, Riser didn't expect that he would become a master craftsman, as it was a tough job, considering he had to stay in front of the flame all the time. Even if he was immune to a flame, there was no doubt that crafting was troublesome. If possible, he wanted to lend his abilities to his peerage members, as there was no need for him to create weapons. If he could do that, then there was no doubt the power of his peerage members would increase. Nevertheless, he didn't have such a power, so he could only do a troublesome thing by crafting a weapon to make them stronger. Isabella, don't hog Riser-sama's motorcycle. Yeah, we want to ride it too. Alan Nell complained at Isabella, who had hogged Cavalier all the time. When this motorcycle was taken out by Riser, Isabella quickly took a liking for it and rode it all the time, causing a lot of dissatisfaction from everyone. Riser-sama, are those only the things you have crafted? Maihi, his bishop, who had always worn traditional Japanese clothes, asked pitifully. Maihi, don't be greedy. Ubeluna scolded Maihi. After all, she knew how her master had worked the best, yet she had to say she would be lying if she didn't feel jealous, as she also wished to have a weapon to enhance her power. Still, unlike Maihi, she was quite patient, and she was more talented in magic compared to others, so Riser had given her many unique magics, which greatly relieved her. However, not everyone could be like Ubeluna, as not all of them could be so talented at magic, so the only way for them to become stronger was from his weapon. Moreover, they also knew their time to become stronger was limited. Riser was planning to challenge the champion, and naturally, as their peerage members, they also wished to become his strength. They didn't want to become a burden and could do nothing when Tannen appeared before them. Sorry, I didn't have enough time, but I will make more later when I get inspiration. As he patted Maihi's head, Riser thought that he might pay a visit to Azazel in the headquarters of the Gregory. That guy had promised to give him all the results of his research and many other things, including how the fallen angel would be in peace with the devil, yet until now, that guy said nothing. There was also no news that the devil and the fallen angel would be in a truce. It was as if what had happened before was just a lie. Yet, Riser wasn't surprised and didn't really care, as he could make Azazel pay whether Azazel wished for it or not. Nevertheless, Riser was quite interested in Azazel's research in sacred gear, especially when Azazel was able to create an artificial sacred gear. While the might of this artificial sacred gear was SOSO compared to the genuine one, he believed that he could create the genuine sacred gear as long as he could get enough data. Riser knew the might of sacred gear. If Issei didn't have his boosted gear, what was he? It was also the reason why he thought it might be necessary to get them. By the way, what's the name of this weapon, Riser-sama? Carloman suddenly asked. Cirrus also looked at Riser, waiting for him to name her new weapon. While it wasn't necessary, having a name would make those weapons more special. Nevertheless, as the creator of those weapons, they hoped Riser could name those weapons. Frankly, Riser didn't have any idea what kind of name he should give to those weapons, so he just chose randomly. The name of Carloman's sword is Nice Nature, and Cirrus' weapon is Sunday Silence. Everyone, come on. Stop gawking at me. Hurry up and practice. Hearing his urging, they hesitated before they sighed, since his naming sense was just too absurd. Nice Nature. Carline's lips twitched as she saw the deep cut on the earth, trees, and walls, showing how cruel this weapon was. So, with all of those cruel cuts, Which part of this weapon was nice to nature? Sunday's silence. While Cirrus understood where the word silence came from, she wondered how the word Sunday came from her new sword. Was it made on Sunday? Siri was curious. Still, neither continued to talk as they needed to practice with their new weapon, and while they practiced, he also practiced with his newfound ability, Kama Kama no Mi, on his training ground. Can you teach me this magic, Oni-sama? Naturally, he wasn't alone as Ravel also followed him, latching on his back, pressing her breasts, watching him curiously, moving his fingers slightly, and creating a gigantic airblade. The sharpness of the airblade was undoubted, as it could slash several thick trees and the earth, but more importantly, as it was created from the wind, it was invisible. Moreover, he did all of this with minimal effort, showing his mastery over his new ability had reached a frightening level. Yet, it was also due to his physical ability that supported him that he could easily create a gigantic airblade. Sorry, I am not that proficient in this technique. If it's a fire ability, I can teach you, but if it's a wind, it might be hard. After all, this wasn't a wind manipulation ability, so while it was possible to produce the ability from Kama Kama no Mi with Phenex's wind manipulation ability, teaching them was a different thing. While it might be strange, wind magic was the most unpopular magic after all. Unless one was proficient with this magic, the wind magic hardly had any lethality. Nevertheless, instead of creating an airblade or scythe, he felt that the power of Kama Kama no Mi was more into the concept of cutting. There was no doubt as long as he could develop this ability further, or to the limit, it would become a scary ability. It's okay then. Ravel won't trouble you, especially when you need to get stronger. Ravel knew what her older brother needed to face, and while she also wished to become stronger, she didn't want to deliberately trouble him. But you are going to meet Bale-sama, right, Oni-sama? Do you want me to come with you? It's okay. I will go there myself. Well, Ravel will help you prepare then. Thanks. He kissed her cheek, causing her to smile, and hugged him tighter. But are you going to support the Great King faction now, Oni-sama? Unlike Sona, who was still blind about many things, Ravel knew some of the things that her brother planned to do. After all, there was no doubt among all the people around him, Ravel was the one that he trusted the most. Using is a more appropriate word, though. Ravel giggled. You're so bad, Oni-sama. Do you hate it? I love it. Frankly, the more he stayed in this world, the more he realized many things. While the four great Satans might appear impressive, that's it. Their power might be above everyone, including Bale, but it was hard for him to become awe of them. Instead, Riser felt that he might as well choose to lay under the umbrella of Bale. While Bale might seem helpless and less powerful, there was no doubt Zekrom would be able to make him do his quest and do what he wanted to do smoothly. Zekrom might use him as his blade, but Riser was also going to use Zekrom. The two were going to use each other. More importantly, while he might not be able to take down Surzek and the others, he could take someone out, and he wasn't going to give this thing mercy. Nevertheless, when he looked at Ravel, he wondered how he could focus on his training. What's wrong, Oni-sama? Ravel blinked her eyes as she stared at him with a mischievous smile. Riser thought that not only he needed to strengthen his physical ability, but it seemed he also needed to strengthen his will.